January 1948. Les Paul and Mary Ford are traveling back home to Los Angeles after visiting family in Wisconsin. Driving down Route 66 in Oklahoma, their Buick hits a sheet of ice and careens off a railroad overpass, dropping 20 feet into a ravine and nearly killing them both. While in the hospital, Les receives some of the worst news any working guitar player could ever hear. Your right elbow is shattered and we cannot repair it. We're going to have to amputate. My name is Mike from Ruling Note Music, and today we're going to discuss how a potentially fatal car crash helped kickstart the modern recording industry as we know it. Lester William Pulsfus, or Les Paul as we all know him today, has made history in the modern music world that can only be described as truly legendary. Now, I remember a week in my first recording course in college dedicated to Les Paul, where it was shown that he wasn't just an insane guitar talent. I mean, who hasn't heard of the Gibson Les Paul at this point? But also the father of multiple current-day recording techniques that we all still use. Les started his career as both a guitar player and inventor right off the bat. His first instrument was harmonica, which he started playing at 8 years old. Eventually, he tried piano but moved on to guitar, which influenced him to create one of his first musical inventions, the neck-worn harmonica holder, which allowed him to play both instruments simultaneously. So yeah, this guy as a kid helped invent the musical backbone of Bob Dylan's career. He went semi-pro at 13 as a country guitarist, vocalist, harmonicist? Harmonicist? And to make sure his acoustic guitar was loud enough to be heard more clearly, he attached a phonograph needle to the guitar and wired it to a radio speaker. Dude created a proto-guitar amp as a teenager. Les was also one of the most virtuosic guitarists around in his day. With a huge influence from Django Reinhardt, he added jazz flavor to his country background and became one of the most sought-after guitarists of his time. His earlier session work with artists like Bing Crosby show his ability to use the guitar to harmonize and back the vocals rather than take the focus away from them. This helped separate him from the scores of other lead guitarists in his line of work. However, today he's most well known for his namesake guitar, a solid body design similar to the idea that Paul originally pitched to Gibson in 1941. Now, the Les Paul guitar as we know it was designed by Ted McCarty and was originally sold in 1952 as a response to the Fender Esquire models. But before this, Les had actually invented his own custom prototype solid body electric guitar, dubbed the Log, in 1940. Originally, this guitar was made straight out of a 4-foot-long 4x4 block of pine, but the appearance of the guitar on stage shocked people so much that he decided to change the look by slicing an Epiphone hollow body in half and sticking it to the sides. Now, he had the look of a hollow body without all the feedback issues. During the storied career of invention and musicianship, Les Paul met Mary Ford in 1946, and they began working together in 1948. This year is the turning point in both of their lives as hitmakers and musical icons. In January 1948, Les and Mary were driving down Route 66 on their way back home to Los Angeles after visiting family in Wisconsin. Although Les normally drove, he had been running a fever for a few days and was too ill to drive, so Mary had to drive the entire trip back while Les rested in the passenger seat. In Oklahoma during a snowstorm, their car hit some ice on the road and started to swerve. Les was jolted awake when Mary started screaming. He kicked Mary's foot off the brake to help regain control of the car, but it was too late. They were going over the side of a hill. Les, believing the two of them were goners, threw his right arm over Mary to protect her face as they careened off a railroad overpass. The ensuing 20-foot drop into a ravine destroyed the car, landing it upside down. Now, at this time, seatbelts were not as commonplace, and they weren't in this car, which was a Buick convertible. While the car tumbled down the hill, Les and Mary were thrown out of it along with all the equipment they were carrying with them. Now, luckily, Mary wasn't seriously injured, but Les was a different story. Les Paul's injuries were substantial. 6 broken ribs, a fractured pelvis, cracked vertebrae, a broken nose, a punctured spleen, and other injuries to his collarbone and shoulder. On top of this, the Buick took out telephone and telegraph lines while it ran off the road. Les and Mary were unable to call for help and waited in a snowstorm for roughly 8 hours. Had it not been for the crew sent by the local phone company to repair the lines, Les and Mary could have died from a combination of their injuries and possible hypothermia. Although it could be considered, The internal bleeding from Les's injuries may have been slowed by the freezing cold weather as well. Now, Les would eventually recover from his near-fatal condition, but the most fateful of these injuries was to Les's right elbow, which was shattered in the crash and incapable of being repaired. The only option the doctors had for this injury was to amputate his arm just above the elbow. Les was going to lose his right hand. His life, as he knew it, would be over. However, Les didn't take too kindly to this outlook. His first idea while recovering was to build a guitar synthesizer that could be played with one hand, among a few other things. As Les lay in his hospital bed plotting, his doctor, Dr. Robert Knight, was familiar with his career and knew that amputation was simply not an option. After several successful surgeries for his other injuries, Dr. Knight had Les flown out to Los Angeles to see a bone specialist. This specialist, Dr. McKeever, gave Les one final option. Take a piece of bone from Les's leg and fuse his upper arm and his forearm together where they meet. This procedure would remove the elbow joint and permanently fix his arm in one position. When Les heard the news, he told Dr. McKeever, "Put my forefinger in my belly button when you said it. That's how I hold the guitar, and I'll still be able to play." The procedure was performed, and Les Paul ended up with his right elbow locked at a near 90-degree angle. And although use of his right hand was not a guarantee, a year and a half of physical therapy proved it could be done. Les Paul could play again. Now, as miraculous as this story is, it's not the reason why I made this video. You see, the plotting and physical therapy period I skimmed over, it's kind of important. During his recovery, Les and Mary's musical partnership turned to a full-blown romance, and they eventually married in 1949. Les also had a lot of time to shift his focus to creating music with Mary without needing a backing band to do it. He started to brainstorm new ways to manipulate his equipment to make just the two of them sound like a full band. The most famous method he created is called sound-on-sound recording, which he initially invented in 1945. This method included adding an additional playback head to the beginning of the signal chain of his tape machine and wiring it to the record head. This allowed him to layer tracks on top of themselves and create doubled and harmonized lines on a single piece of mono tape. A perfect introduction to this method of recording is Les and Mary's hit song, "How High the Moon." A link to this song is provided in the description. Les spent his downtime exploring and expanding on this technique to create what he called the new sound, introducing the world to phase shifting, tape delay, overdubbing, close miking, and speed-manipulated sound effects. In the end, Les and Mary didn't just sound like a full band, they sounded like they came from another planet. Les Paul and Mary Ford divorced in 1964, and Les semi-retired as a professional guitar player in 1965. He went on to record a couple albums after this, most notably 2 jazz country fusion albums with Chet Atkins, Chester and Lester and Guitar Monsters. However, his days of heavy touring were behind him, and he spent the rest of his life behind the console and happily playing small local New York clubs up until his death in 2009. Les Paul has a slew of awards to his name, including inductions into the National Inventors Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as well as joining the likes of Thomas Edison and Leo Fender with the Special Merit Technical Grammy Award in 2001. And although he may be known to the average musician as just a signature on a guitar headstock, Les Paul is an unmatched legend, whose career stands as a cornerstone of the modern recording industry. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like and comment below. Also, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for more videos like this. Again, this is Mike from Ruling Note Music, reminding you to never compromise your sound.